We're literally living in the golden age of filmmaking. Equipment has never been more affordable and accessible, and that's great news for colorists. It's never been easier to work with RED or RE footage. And if you get your hands on a couple of projects that are well lit and shot with high-end cameras, it's game over. It makes landing high-end clients a piece of cake. Now, I'm not trying to discourage you that anything less than RE or RED is not going to cut it. I'm just trying to give you ideas that can help you get from A to B much faster. I cherry-picked cameras that are the go-to options when it comes to commercials, feature films, short films, music videos, wedding videos, event videos, documentaries, and everything in between. My goal for you from this course is to be profitable and employable right after you're finished with FCM. Let me take you through the list of cameras that we're going to be covering in this module. Alexa Mini, the Rolls Royce of all the cameras. It's literally the best camera in the business, the end. Number 2, Red Dragon. Red has revolutionized the entire industry. Before Red, it was impossible to get your hands on high-end cameras. And not only that, Red took the digital format and made it cool in the eyes of all the DPs. Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, this thing is taking over the world. The price point with the image quality that you get is just unreal, and I'm so excited to be sharing the results from this camera with you. Canon C200 is probably the best all-around camera in the entire lineup. I've seen it used on big productions, mid-tier productions, and small productions. Panasonic GH5, the best budget camera with the most advanced video features in the market. Sony is the king of event videos and a low budget option for those who are just starting out as filmmakers. Now, I don't want to spend a single second talking about the color science and the color theory and blah, blah, blah. I want to get right in and show you the perfect settings that you need for each camera to get the optimum results. Guys, you must screen grab what I'm about to show you. This is the holy grail, the secret sauce, the ultimate cheat sheet for each camera on the list. So now on to the exciting stuff. Let me take you through where all the footage lives. So when you go under course material, go under O2 cameras, and this is where all the footage is living, guys. And this is so exciting. I'm so happy to get my hands on the kind of footage that I have for you guys. You guys don't understand how huge this is. I get this question all the time. Hey, where can I get some good footage to practice on? And that was my biggest challenge as a colorist when I was starting out. I wanted to work on Red. I wanted to work on Alexa. I wanted to work on all kinds of footage, not only high-end footage, but also some average footage, like just to be seasoned and practice in my downtime and get better. And you guys will get to have that forever. As long as you're not using it for commercial use, go ham, practice on it, do whatever the hell you want with it. I reached out to my vast network of directors, producers, cinematographers, filmmakers, hit up any and everyone, and these MVPs were able to provide me with some epic footage. I'm gonna give them a shout out. The majority of the C200 footage is from my good friend Filippo Sinotti. I hope I'm saying his name right. Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K footage is by my college homie Jesse Hibbs. DJI footage is by IG handle Depicted Time. Footage for the color matching module is provided by Pavel and Tone. Thank you so much, guys, for letting us use your amazing footage. All right, so let's take a look at where everything is. When you go under course material, go into O2 cameras, and this is where all your camera footage is gonna be. So you got Alexa Mini, awesome shots, ready to go, all shot in ProRes 444 XQ. You got Blackmagic footage. This was shot in ProRes HQ, and one Blackmagic RAW file in here as well for you to play around with. We got Canon C200 footage. This was all shot in RAW, 12-bit. And then for DJI, we got tons of footage. We got footage from Mavic Pro. We got Inspire 1, Inspire 2. So, I mean, you guys can just take your time, go ham, and each one is very different when you're working with this camera. So take your time, have fun with it. Panasonic GH5, everything was shot on Vlog. Got tons of clip here. Then we have Red Dragon footage. And this was one of the best shot music videos I've ever worked on. So you guys are going to have so much fun with that. You can create looks. You can do just pure color correction. I mean, you can do anything with it. The possibilities are endless here. Then we have Sony a6500 footage that you can find right here. And there's a ton of variety. We got dark shots, overexposed shots, underexposed shots, bunch of different things that's gonna challenge your color grading chops in a long run. And then, guys, you're welcome. Just look at this. I don't want you to go out there and hunt for any LUTs. I dropped every single useful and go-to LUT for each camera that we're going to be working on in this folder, and you get to have them. And I'm going to show you how to install these LUTs and then how to use them. This is it, guys. Just stop the course. You don't even have to watch it anymore. This is the secret sauce. And let me show you how to install your LUTs. So what you can do is you can grab all of these and drop them in directly into your LUT folder. And guys, I'm going to be showing you how to drop them in for Mac. And then you're going to have to figure it out for PC since I'm using Mac here. So this is going to be for all my bros and sisters who are using Mac. So this is what you're going to do. This is what I would recommend. I would say just copy this folder right here. Let's just change the name to ZZFCM Freelance Colorist Masterclass Camera LUTs. And it's going to sit at the bottom, ZZ. So it sits at the bottom and it doesn't get jumbled up with our camera footage. Okay, so now what I would say you have to do is I have a shortcut right here, but I'm going to take a picture of this and drop it in under the LUT folder for you guys so you have a point of reference where these LUTs need to go. And then I'm going to show you another way to install these LUTs as well. So let's just do that. All right, guys. So now let me show you how to move these LUTs into the right folder. So let's go over to DaVinci Resolve. And to install your LUTs, this is what you got to do. You got to go right here, click on this guy, give it a second so it can open. And you want to go under color management. It's super simple, guys. Go down and click on Open LUT Folder. So thank you, Blackmagic, for giving us this quick access because otherwise it is a freaking mess to get in there. And then at that point, what you can do is just go over to my LUTs and you can simply, so let's go in here, course material, cameras, and this is where the LUTs are and you'll just move them over here. I already have moved them, so I don't need to move them in, but you can just drag and drop them right in there. And let me just quickly take you through some of these LUTs. So you got the ARRI LUT, you got the Blackmagic LUT, you got the Canon C-Log 2 and C-Log 3 LUTs. If you guys use camera LUTs, you know what I'm talking about. There's tons of LUTs. These are the appropriate ones for the cameras that we're going to be working on, so you don't have to get confused because I'm going to show you how confusing it can actually get. For the DJI, because there's so many different camera models and variations, I left a lot of those in there. Vlog, pretty simple. You got that. And I think that's a $100 LUT that I'm throwing in there for you guys to use, so you're welcome. Then Red, I spit out that LUT by using a third-party software because Red doesn't make their Rec 709 LUTs, IPP2 to Rec 709 LUTs, so I created that. So that is something unique that you can't really get online. And then there are Sony LUTs that I dropped in here, and then anything is labeled green. That's the sauce. So the camera that we're going to be working with and the profile S-Log 3 that I'm going to be using on the camera, this is what you want to use. Technicolor, this is for all the OGs out there that are still rocking Canon 5D Mark II, Mark III. You got the CineStyle, brother. Drop that on, and it's going to give you a CineStyle to Rec 709, a good starting point. So guys, amazing stuff. This right here is just so much value. I am so excited for you guys. Go ham on this footage, drop these LUTs in, and let's get going. All right, let me walk you through where Module 2 is and where you're going to find the project for it. So under our database, go under the folder 02 cameras, open it up, and then you have a project name 02 cameras, open it up. Once you open it, this is how it's structured. A little bit different than Conform. I'm gonna structure each project per module. So for this one, this makes the most sense. So we have a folder called footage, and under our footage, it's broken down into cameras that we're gonna be working with. So we got Alexa, Blackmagic, Canon, DJI, Panasonic, Red, Dragon, and Sony. And then at the bottom, you should have smart bins. And this is where you can just click on the timeline and it'll give you all the main timelines we're going to be working with. If you don't see smart bins right here, let's see where you can find these. So up top under preferences, you're going to go into user and then editing. And right here, it says automatic smart bins. And I have my smart bin for timelines turned on. So that is a super, super useful feature. It pretty much means that if you have your timelines all over the place in multiple bins and you did not create a folder for it, you can just click on timelines right here and it gives you all your timelines. All right, so let me talk about how this module is going to go down. So I picked 3 shots from each camera here. One would be outside, one would be well lit, and one would be dark. And then I'm going to grade all 3 shots using 3 different methods per shot. So we're going to grade the footage. Basically, we're doing log to Rec 709. That's what I mean by grading. We're not doing anything fancy in this module. I just want to show you the difference between getting it to Rec 709 from log using primaries. The second method is going to be getting it there by using the camera LUT, and the third method is going to be getting there by using DaVinci Resolve's color space transform. Sometimes it's called DCT, DaVinci Color Transform. And then at the end, we're going to compare the three versions and just talk about the different characteristics that each one brings and what I usually prefer and what's my go-to method. Now let's jump right into our first camera, which is going to be Alexa Mini. Let's go. All right, let's look at a couple of things that you should look out for before start color grading in DaVinci Resolve. The first one is just a fun little thing. If you're coming from Premiere Pro and in the edit page, you have multiple timelines stacked up here, and you go in one and you copy something and you paste it in the next one, and here you have to double click on it every time you're jumping from timeline to timeline. Well, in DaVinci Resolve 16, they took care of that. It lives right in this option. Click on that. Once you pop that open, the option to your left right here, just check this on and look what happens. Boom. So all your timelines show up, and now you can jump from timeline to timeline and do whatever you want if you want to copy something over. So that is an amazing feature. I love it. And one thing to keep in mind is, this is just me, my experience. I'm noticing that. I don't know if it's true or not, but sometimes when I have multiple timelines open, my system sometimes slow down a little bit and the performance is kind of inconsistent at times. So for that, what I do is I just turn off all my timelines and leave the one that I'm currently in, and it seems to take care of that problem. Number two, let's click right here and go in here under our project settings and go to the color management tab. And what I want you to see here is this is how it should look like. And if it's set to this, then it's perfect. You don't have to change anything. But in this masterclass, because I'm a commercial colorist, I work in Rec 709 period. So this entire masterclass is going to be based around that. And it's by default, DaVinci is set to Rec 709 right here. So timeline color space is Rec 709. So when you output something, it's going to be ready to go for broadcast or web. And what I don't want you to do is, if by mistake this is set to DaVinci Resolve YRGB color manage, just make sure that you switch it back to DaVinci YRGB and here change it to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. We are ready to go. So that is number two. And then let's quickly jump over to our color page, and I'm going to pop open my scopes and show you how I set it up, and you can change it and set it up however you like. But if you're seeing something different here than what I have here, it's simple. Just click on this, twirl this down, and select one of these guys. Also, if you just like to work off of one scope, then you can click right here and just have that. If you just work off of your RGB parades and vector scope, then keep them too. I like to have 4, and this is my setup. So I have my waveform to the left, I have my parade to the right, vector scope bottom right, and then histogram bottom left. And then let's go through some of these options. So another thing that I'm going to say that's very important in vector scope is you want to open this up and you want to turn on show skin tone indicator. And obviously we're going to be touching base on that later on. But look what happens if I click reset view. It resets it and it's not on by default. So I would say just always have that on. It's good to have it on. And let's go through a couple of these options that they added in DaVinci Resolve 16 exclusively. So we have a low pass filter that if you turn that on, see how it thins out all your scopes. I personally don't like it, maybe because I'm just used to this, the OG setup. So I'm going to leave it as is. Under quality, you can change the quality to whatever. Medium is by default, and I just leave that alone. And that's about it for the pre-grading prep. Let's jump right into our module. All right, now on to some real exciting stuff. Guys, this module, I'm not kidding, is probably my favorite. I cannot tell you how important it is to know what to do with specific camera footage. If you don't know how to properly work with log, nothing will give away what kind of amateur you are than that. And once you do understand how it works, and it's not hard, there's just certain things that you need to know about each and every camera and every camera manufacturer. And once you nail that, it's game over. I cannot be more excited what you're about to gain from this module. First camera, I chose the Rolls-Royce Mini. And this is how I'm gonna start off each camera lesson. I'm gonna go with what the camera is used for, pros, cons, workarounds, and then we're gonna dive right in to the color correction portion of it. So let's start with Mini and what it's used for. So it's pretty much the workhorse when it comes to feature films, high-end commercials, and then a lot of the times people are using it for short films as well, since the technology is getting cheaper and people have access to these high-end cameras nowadays. Okay, let's get right into the pros. Pros, it has that 35mm film look that people crave and just can't let go of, and most of the high-end DPs are coming from film cameras. The dynamic range you get from this camera is just second to none. You get a 16-bit image, which makes it a freaking breeze when it comes to using qualifiers in DaVinci Resolve. Pulling keys with this camera is a freaking joke. Anyone can do it. I can give you a 2-minute tutorial and you'll be a freaking master. And it is possible with this particular camera. Post workflow is the biggest plus of using this camera. The footage that comes out of this camera is always played back as offline footage, meaning if it was transcoded for optimum performance. It doesn't matter. It could be a 4K image, like this right here is a 4K image, and if I just play it back, I mean, everything just plays back perfectly. Look at that. It's butter. It's butter. There will be never any hiccups with this stuff. It is amazing. I'm in love. It doesn't matter. I can have 27 nodes action going on, and it'll play back as one of the best codecs out there. One of the cons that I've noticed with this camera that we have to deal with as colorists is that every now and then there's a certain green cast that's embedded. And I'm not noticing that with Mini a lot, but with Alexa, that used to be a very big problem. It will have a pretty heavy green tint that you have to take care of in post. So the workaround for that is simple. You just use your tint control and you offset that. So you just get rid of the green by adding magenta, and then that settles that problem very easily and effectively. All right, guys, let's get into this right away. So as I said, the way these are set up is that it's going to start off with a bright image and then a indoor well-lit image and then something that's a little bit darker, so we can go through a whole gamut and see how each camera responds to all that and what we can do, quick fixes. In this module, it's not about color correction, it's not about color grading. We're not going to be doing full-on grades. Here, I want to explain to you what is happening with the color science for each camera without getting nerdy. It's going to be all based on practical information and what we're going to be doing to our footage and then seeing the result. This is how we're going to drive this whole thing. So let me pull up my scopes really fast. I'm going to keep my scopes right here since I'm not using the keyframes in this exercise or in this entire module. So I'm going to leave these guys right here. And guys, the first method that I'm going to use to correct my footage is going to be our primaries, and it's all going to happen right here. So what I'm going to be using gain, lift, gamma to correct my image. And I want to focus on basically with this masterclass, I want to take you through as many tools as possible in the most organic way. What I mean by that is when we're going to be working in color correction, I'm going to be dealing with the primary, the OG tools as much as possible. And I'm not going to be going through some of these tools that were added later on in the world of DaVinci Resolve. Some of these might look familiar to you if you're coming from Lightroom or Premiere Pro Lumetri. So these things came in later and they work a bit different than like the OG tools right here. But what I want to do in this module is to use my lift, gamma, gain, just the levels portion of it, not the RGB. I don't want to touch any of that. And if there's going to be some color problems and color temperature problems, we're going to adjust that by using these. So in this module, I do want to show you the modern techniques that they've added on with the later release of DaVinci Resolve. So let's just get going and then you're going to get a grasp on what I'm talking about. So the first method is taking our image from log to Rec 709 by using our wheels. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 3 nodes. The node structure for this module is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to do my primaries on here. I'm going to do my noise reduction on here. And then I'm going to do any adjustments we have to make right here. Everything is going to be pretty basic. We're going to keep it simple. So let's go with my lift. And guys, I'm working on this right now and I'm going to be using my color panel. So you might not see the mouse move, but I'm going to spell out what I'm working on so you know what's happening. So right now I'm working on my lifts. Lifts are looking okay. I'm going to park them right here. And then I'm going to go with my gain. I'm going to skip gamma for now. I'm going to go with my gain. And always, like, you know, one thing to remember, always push it too far and then bring it down. So then you know what's your max, okay? So my max where I want to keep it is somewhere around here. And then do the same with darks too. Bring it down all the way and then raise it. And then where you want to park it there. Let's give it a little bit of saturation. Again, max it out and then go back. And let's just say somewhere around here is not bad. So I want to leave this right here, okay, for this method for now. I don't want to touch anything else. So here we can see all the detail in here. Just look at it. Let me just make it bigger so we can look at it a little bit better. But just watch this. I'm going to hide this too. I mean, just watch everything in the sky, all the detail that's preserved. Look at, I can even see the bottom of the hat and the detail in the shadow. That's the darkest part right here. And then look at how nice the skin looks. Everything is preserved, guys. This is beautiful. It was shot around dusk and it's all there. And now if we want to push it, we can easily push it. But this gives you an idea and the strength of like what this camera is about and how much you can actually push it. So always been very, very impressed with this camera. One of my favorite, actually just period. It's my favorite camera. There is no doubt about that. So we're going to leave our primary section for now. And now we're going to create a new version. So I'm going to create a new version. It's going to tell you the version has been created. And now I'm going to go ahead and remove this. So now my previous version is my primaries. Moving on to my next version. And you're going to be seeing the keystrokes right here, what I'm doing. And now what I want to do is apply a RE LUT and see what that does. So in my RE right here, I want to apply this LUT and see what's happening now and study my scopes right here. And you can see everything is under where it's supposed to be. So we're all good. It feels like it's kind of pushed a bit too much compared to this, because if you look at the detail in the sky and everything in this image compared to that, it's kind of pushed, and like the circle under my eyes are kind of aggressive, and like I don't really see my eyes anymore, like how you can see the green in my eyes, and that's kind of gone. But at the same time, it has a really nice pop and everything in our LUT version. And the thing that you need to know about camera LUTs is that they are probably the best way to go about color grading. You have to find the right LUT though. Each manufacturer will have tons of LUTs for the same camera, and a lot of the times people get intimidated because they apply the wrong ones and then they just go, we're out, never trying it again, you know, game over. You don't want to do that. You want to find the right LUT. The beautiful thing about RE is that they only give you one LUT. So you just apply the, you know, log to Rec 709 and that's that. So what I'm seeing here is like, I'm seeing some problems and we're going to fix those and we're going to attack those. So I'm seeing like how highlights are kind of blown out and then the shadows are a bit aggressive. So the contrast I'm not super stoked about, but I do like the color rendering that's happening. It's really, really nice. But I also, guys, I have a soft spot for primaries because I feel like you can just go in so many directions with primaries. You're in charge. Just look how nicely everything is sitting. Whereas if I go to my LUT version and see how everything kind of gets stretched out in this section, and this is what I'm trying to tell you. I mean, I was mentored by a guy who's done Marco Polo, the first HDR show on Netflix, and he's done the first and the second Sherlock Holmes, Dado Valentic. I mean, this guy is it, you know, he's the real freaking deal. He works on $150 million budget Warner Brother movies. He's their go-to guy. So he knows what he's talking about. And he's the one who taught me to use these and really, really take advantage of what's happening right here, because he said, you cannot get more pristine and cleaner image with anything else besides this right here. And it's gonna fudge with your image the least amount. And we can see that. I mean, just look what I was doing and where I was going and how everything is just so nice and nothing is stretched. And you go here, and although this is Ari's own LUT, it still feels like there's a little bit of too much stretch action going on. And like I said, we can bring that information back. That's why we apply our camera LUT or show LUT later on. So we have our primaries for us to work on. And I just realized I should have moved this LUT over here, because this is for my primaries and this is for my noise reduction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Option. Just watch what I'm doing. I'm going to hold down Option and move this over, and it's going to look weird for 1 second, but that's okay because we're going to reset this node grade. And that way everything is sitting right here. And now here I can bring down my highlights and take the edge off that contrast, how strong this contrast is. I can bring it down a little. So for now, let's leave this and create a new version. And now I'm going to get rid of this. So now this one is our primaries. This one is our LUT. And this one, I'm going to show you the third method. And guys, I'm not sure, but I feel like you need to have the studio version to use this. So I'm under Resolve FX Color, and I'm going to take this and apply it right here. And this is the color space transform. Some people call it CST. Some people call it DCT, DaVinci Color Transform. So this thing is unreal. And I'm going to show you what it does. It's one of the most powerful tools in DaVinci Resolve. This is basically a concoction. You can cook up any LUT, anything right within this OpenFX. So let's go through it. So what I want to do is I want to bring in, quote unquote, my RE LUT through here, through DaVinci Resolve's plugin. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say my input color space was RE. So I'm going to select that and look what it did. It gave it a nice color, brought that information back. I'm going to say my input gamma was log C. Look what it did. That's okay. It seems like, oh my God, like this just can't be right. What the hell is going on? It's okay. My outer color space is going to be, I'm going to be working in Rec 709. So I'm going to say, put it on Rec 709. My output gamma is also going to be Rec 709. Once I change that, all of a sudden my contrast is looking pretty good, but my highlights are just out of whack. That's okay. What you need to do is under tone mapping, you're going to go and you're going to turn on luminance mapping and watch what happens. Voila. Everything came back. Okay. Looks great. A little before and after action. Boom. Everything came back. Then you're going to go under gamut mapping and turn saturation mapping on. And this is where I was talking about for things like that, guys, you got to take screen grabs. You got to throw them in your Google Docs, make some notes, and just make sure that you have a reference point and know exactly where to go and what to look for when you don't remember how I did this. So now this one is our CST using DaVinci's Open Effects. This is our LUT, and this is our primaries. So by looking at that, this is why I wanted to show you these three major ways to go about setting up your log to Rec 709 look. Because if I look at this right now, my clear winner is looking like CST right here. I'm looking at the skin. The skin is looking a lot better. It's looking kind of sickly and yellowish green in the RE LUT. It's looking much better in the CST. The flowers are looking better. The contrast edge that was too much for the LUT is kind of evened out in the color space transform. And then I'm looking at the clouds on the far right. So let's look at, let me just make this bigger and let's review this together. Okay. So this is our CST, and let's get rid of that so we can look at it. Now just check it out. So look at how much information came back. Pretty much everything got back. I can see all of it, okay? And I can even preserve more. So now if I go back to the LUT version, it's pretty much gone. I go back to CST, it's back. Just look at the skin. Just look at right here. Look at the skin here, circles, how yellow, lifeless it looks in the LUT version, and look at how natural it looks and lively it looks in that CST version. Big difference, guys, big difference. When it comes to color grading, these nuances, that's the difference between an amateur and a freaking top colorist. Now let's look at our primaries. Primaries obviously needed a lot of work. When you look at, how far we came with these and how fast we got there, then you go here and, it needs some work. But at the same time, like, now if I'm going between CST and primaries. So this is like that nice film look, that everybody talks about. So we're getting that really cool film look. I can pump up the contrast and do all those things and preserve detail right here. Whereas in my CST, it's about to, be a bit too hot and overexposed. But then obviously in the LUT, it's almost gone. Look at how fast we got from A to B with the LUT and the color space transform compared to primaries. With primaries, there's so much up for interpretation. You have to dial in each and everything, and you got to tinker so much. Whereas with these options, boom, you just hit the ground freaking running, okay? And if you're going to be working on commercials and things like that, you don't want to spend too much time on things that don't really matter. You want to spend time on things that will matter and focus more on the creative end, creating grades, instead of focusing on just getting your freaking primaries right. So that's why I am all about LUTs. I got to be honest. I mean, we got to cover this entire module and we're going to talk about everything, but I'm going to say I'm biased toward LUTs and CST. But here we just saw the difference. Each one has their own characteristics. So depending on what you're going for, if you're doing something for cinema and it's going to be on a projector, maybe you want to take this to the next level and build off of that. If you're doing something for a reality TV and it has to be a punchy look and you got to hit your black points and you got to hit your white points, maybe the LUT is the way to go because it's putting you in that ballpark. If you're doing a commercial or something like that, CST might be a good option to start with. These are the things you got to keep in mind. So now what I'm going to do is let's go ahead. Let's go back to our primaries and start dialing it in. So I'm going to give it a little bit punch and see what else we can extract from it. So this is what I want to do for the punch, okay? I want to create a punch by using my contrast and pivot in this node. So I'm going to go and start adding some contrast, and then I'm going to lift my pivot. Lift it. I'm going to add some more contrast. Maybe leave it somewhere around here and go back to this node and add more saturation. Again, just remember, I'm not color correcting or grading this. I'm just getting it from log to rec 709, and I'm not going to be getting into too much here, okay? But I will be doing a couple of things. So now that we are here, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my highlights and shadows to bring back some information in those areas. So let's go with highlights. And I'm going to be using highlights and shadows together with the knobs because I have the knobs here. So I'm just going to be using them at the same time. All right, so you can see how much information we were able to bring back in the primaries. So just look at how much I brought up myself without using windows, and then at the same time was able to control the highlights. So that is not bad at all. That's looking pretty good. Now I'm gonna go into my LUT version and try to do the same thing. So I'm gonna use highlights and shadows. Now I'm doing this in real time to kind of give you an idea of what is happening with each one. And there's nothing scientific about these things that I'm doing because color grading is not scientific at all. I mean, people can argue with me on that, but really it's an art form, okay? So when you're creating something, it's coming from like, you know, what looks good to you, what you're looking at, if the scopes are right, you know, in that ballpark, then you just kind of go from there and fly with it. So what I'm seeing right now, if you show me these two versions, I'm already liking. Hold on. So let me just look. It's a bit too lifted. This version is a bit too lifted, so I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to use my lift to bring it down. So I do like the LUT look better because just look at the background and how much more detail we can see in the clouds. And it's not washed away like it is in the primaries at this point. So I'm liking that. I'm not liking myself so much. I'm liking myself more in the primaries version. But let's just go ahead in the CST and try to create the same thing, and let's see what happens. I knew it. I mean, the color rendering out of the CST was just unbelievable. And I knew that that was going to take the cake, but just look at it. Okay, let's make it full screen and let's analyze this. So version 1, this is our primaries. I do like how I look and my eyes are popping out. And just remember, we're not using any windows. We're not even correcting at this point. This is just, you know, log to rec 709 with a couple of nodes. I like everything here. I don't like anything back there in the primaries. Then I go to my LUT and I love the color rendering. Like, just look how everything pops, even like my skin looks good. I don't like how my eyes are really dark, but that could be a contrast that we can adjust. I absolutely love the detail in the clouds. See everything. And then let's look at the CST. Wow. Wow. I mean, just look at right here, the life that I got in my skin. It looks like a green screen. And then just look at the foliage right here. It looks so good. And then pretty much everything is maintained in the clouds. I mean, they look great. Let's do one more. And obviously, if this saturation is a bit too much, we can just bring it down a touch. So I just brought down the saturation a little bit. I mean, I gotta be honest. I'm just gonna say it because I don't like bipartisan stuff in anything in life. So I'm just gonna be honest. In this example, CST is the best, hands down. It's the best. Big difference. This is crazy. Tell me one course or one video ever in your life that you saw where you got to witness this. I mean, this is too good. This is, I mean, I'm serious. Like this, because this came from over a decade of experience, color grading, and just getting so deep into it. These things happen to me when I'm literally bored out of my mind and I'm just sitting here grading the same image 60 different ways. And that's how I stumble upon different methods to grade your footage. And then I went through the best methods and then brought them down to top 3. And these were my top 3 picks. Do with the primaries, grade your footage with LUTs, and then grade them with CST, and then pick your poison. And in this case, clear winner, guys. Let me do one more thing and show you everything in this view. So what we get here is something that I love very much. So we get our original, obviously. We get our primaries right here. We get our LUT right here, and we get our CST right here. And even in these 4-up view, I gotta be honest, I am in love with CST. Just look at the detail and even the tonality in yellow that you get here compared to here, it's more. The skin is freaking night and day. I see that difference, huge difference. Beautiful, beautiful, I love it. All right, now let's move on to the next shot. Let me come out of this mode, move this over. So what you want to do is a lot of the times you want to park it on like the hero frame. So, you know, let's just say the hero frame in this shot is this. So I'm going to park it on that. So let's just say that's my hero frame. Always find a hero frame when you're color grading, so you have a good base. I'm going to create 3 nodes, and this is going to be my primaries, and let's just get right into it. So go too far and then bring it back. Just remember, go too far, bring it back. Go too far, bring it back. Okay, I like it. Let's say, you know what? I'm looking at it and I feel like there's just a bit too much magenta action happening here. The blue or the red might be a little too high for me. So in this case, I'm gonna use my tint controls, my tint and temperature. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my tint and go toward green. And something like that is not bad. And now I'm gonna try to pull red out of it a little bit. So something like that, not too much. I don't want to take away the life out of her skin. So something like that, not too much. I'm just looking at like the white in her shirt, try to get that in the ballpark. So for now, we're going to leave it here, just like we did before. And now let's create a new version. get rid of this, and we're gonna apply the LUT, RE LUT, and this is what we got. Whoa. That's a massive, massive difference. That is crazy. Let's move the LUT over, made a mistake again, and this is good. And then that's where we're gonna do our adjustments. Let's create a new situation and go back, throw on color transform, set it up the same way. I'm gonna do it again so you just see me do it again, and hopefully it'll help you remember what's happening here. Turn this on, turn this on. Again, big difference, big difference. I love it. I love how much color it brings in. It is great. And you know, we can always take the color back. It's not there to stay permanently. We can take it back and just leave as much as we want to leave in there. So let's close this out for now. I gotta be honest, as much as I like these are a bit too much. They're just a bit extreme. So let's start with this and add some contrast and get this in a good ballpark. So I'm gonna start with contrast, bring this down a little bit. Now let's go and have some fun with highlights and shadows again. Especially with female models, I mean, it's not a bad thing to use, bring up your shadows, you know, that's gonna fill in like their, if there's any circles under their eyes, which she doesn't, but it's still good to know. And, you know, it's, let me see. This is good. This is good. I mean, this is too dark in my opinion, and this is normal. So let's leave that here for the primaries. Let's go in here and pull that information back. I'm going to use my shadows to bring that back, and then I'm going to use my highlights to kind of balance it out. So one thing that I want to show you right here, and that's going to help you a lot, is just look at the vector scope and see what's happening. See how much the image is on the magenta side. This right here, if the meat is in the middle, your shot is balanced. So that's just one indicator to see what's happening. See how far out it is? Let me just go to my primaries and look at this and see it's somewhat more balanced in the middle. And then you see that and it's just boom, bursting like to the right-hand side. And then similar action is happening here. So if we want to control that, as much as I do not want to move my wheels here, let me just see what I can do with my tint and temperature control. So let's just, if we move this to green, it actually makes her skin green, which I don't want. So somewhere around here is not too bad, because if I go back and forth between these two, you can see the skin is somewhat in the same ballpark. I mean, it's a little bit on the yellow side here. So let's give it a little bit red. So just, you know, a pro tip right here. If you keep this, the meat in the middle, your shot is balanced. If it's not, then something is not right. And you should do that unless you're going for that specific look. Okay, so now what I want you to look at is just all the colors in our shirt, and going from primaries to LUT, just watch what's happening. This is insane. You see the color rendering in each way, how different it is. You gotta do this to understand what's happening, so then you know exactly what you want when you're working on a project and you want a specific look. You'll know how to get it. That's why I'm a huge believer in learning how to color grade from ground up and understanding these things than just using like a plugin or a tool or cinema grade or whatever have you, where you just hit some buttons and it does something. So I like in my primaries how these colors are opened up, like right here. If you focus right here, and how it just, something happens to these colors. I mean, they're like just so choked up. And I like how, you know, the color contrast, if you will, is just very gentle here. And I like that. And you can even see it right here, what's happening. Look at this is what explains, everything that I'm just talking about. Look at how gentle everything is. The graph is here in all of these. And then as soon as I go to the LUT one, look what happens to my red channel. It gets cut off. It just gets like suppressed so much. And then let's go to now we are in our CST, and see, CST does not do that. So this action is not happening in CST, and it's just a lot more looser than the LUT version. And let's go back and do the same thing. Let's bring up the shadows, bring down the highlights. And then I want to pull the saturation down. And then I want to cool it off a little bit, go back. Okay, so again, look at CST, how nice it is. Nothing is getting clipped. Look at the LUT version, some weird artifact is happening right there. Look at primaries, it's all open and nice. But once again, I just gotta say, let's just blow it up and look at it. Make it full screen, move this over. And let's start with our primaries. So this is our primaries. Very clean, very proper look. I like it. Looks like a Rec 709. Then let's go to our LUT, and that's just out. That's out of the competition. It's not working for me. Then we go to our CST and look at the richness in the skin. And I'm telling you, I am the biggest fan of what it does to the skin and the richness in the colors. I mean, look at the pink in the back, behind her arm, look at the blue, and everything is in control. The color separation is gnarly. Just look at this pink, because in her shirt, this pink is proper. This is how it was. It wasn't like this. This is kind of, in the primaries, it's kind of washed out. And look at the color that it gains back in the CST. Yeah. Just look at the gray right here and look at the gray right here. Guys, hands down. I mean, CST is a clear winner for me so far in pretty much everything that we're doing. All right, so now we already know the process. Let's fly through this. Let's go, and I'm gonna park it on the hero frame right here. That's good. Let's go hit our shadows first with lift, and now I'm gonna pick it up. Now I want to keep in mind that, this is a pretty dark shot, so I don't want to overdo it. Like that right there is pretty good where we are. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of color. This is looking good. Let's leave it right here. I'm gonna create a new version. I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna go right here, apply a LUT. That's my RE. I just wanna see something. I wanna go here and apply this, and wanna make sure that they're the same LUT. They are. Yep. Okay. So that's my primaries. That's my RE LUT. Man, it just looks so extreme. That's fine. And now we're gonna go in Open Effects. I'm gonna drop this baby on. Do the same thing. Okay, and these are intense. That's okay. All right, so now let's do the same thing where we're just gonna do some contrast action and then bring these back. All right, I'm just gonna park it here for now. Looks pretty good. Let's go in here and raise it up, because this is just... And now I'm gonna go to my CST, do the same. All right, let's look at them. So let's make it full screen. I'm going to move this over, get rid of this. And if I'm honest with you, in this one, I got to go with the LUT because this is my primaries and I like it. I like it here. I like the gentle action happening here. I don't like it here. In the LUT, I like it here. It's very wholesome in one thing. It's a bit extreme, but I like the color separation. I don't really like it here. Then when I go to CST, I hate it here. I hate it here. And I like it, the color separation I like. So, I mean, yeah, I'm going to go with the LUT on this one. But ultimately, so here's my conclusion. Primaries was always the safest bet with the most control, and you can basically drive it anywhere. And I love CST. It's really, really nice, and just the organic nature of that tool, because you can not only export in Rec 709, you can export in Rec 2020. If you're doing HDR, you can do a bunch of different things with that. And it just gives you all the tools in one place, and you can easily pick and choose. And the color rendering overall in the CST was beyond impressive. And although in the last one, it leaves something to desire with the contrast, I'm sure if I spend some time, I can dial in the contrast, but the color rendering was still there, which is my favorite in CST overall. So I would say primaries if you just want a consistent, safe result. CST if you want a little pop and if you want to get there really fast. And then LUT, for me, out of this whole thing that we just did, has to be the last, but that doesn't mean that it's the worst. It just means that, you know, you have better options. But if you want to turn and burn, then LUT is absolutely super, super effective, super fast. And you can go through a bunch of shots by applying a LUT and then making micro adjustments to it. So that's it for RE Mini. Moving on to Red Dragon. All right, moving on to Red Dragon. Let's talk a little bit about Red and what it's used for. Mostly, this is the music video king right here. Red camera is used for music videos, feature films, and commercials. Pros, it has a distinct digital look. It's so sharp, and when I say digital, I don't mean it in a bad way, but just look at it. I mean, there's something about it. It's just so crisp and sharp, razor sharp. And that's just one of the characteristics of Red. You can almost tell when it's Red versus any other camera. It's a 16-bit image, which means it's heaven when it comes to pulling keys. Super, super easy. All right, let's get right into it. So the first thing that you got to do with Red is a little bit of a jiggery pokery in the camera raw. Since these are all raw files, I don't want to use camera metadata, okay? I want to switch this up a little bit to give us more latitude. And this is where you probably want to take some screenshots and remember this, because that's not going to be easy if you're watching it for the first time, how we're going to be setting this up. So I'm going to change my color science to original, since this was the Dragon. And if you're using Helium or any of the newer cameras, you can go ahead and choose IPP2. But with this particular camera, original works the best. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So for color science, I'm going to choose red, wide, gamut, RGB. For gamma curve, I'm going to choose log 3G10. Okay. And then let's just go ahead and create 3 nodes. And then this is where we're going to do our primaries. So let's crank that stuff in. I'm going to start off the initial contrast using lift, gamma, gain. Hold on. So I want to just go right here and dial in my blacks. Let's give it some color. All right, that's okay. Now this is what I want to show you. So just focus right here where the lens flare is. I'm going to change the color science and look what happens, okay? I'm going to change it to version 2. See what it does? like it just kind of turns into a mush. And you can see what's happening right here too. Just look right here. So scopes are going to be the biggest indicator if you're doing something right or wrong. Okay, they're going to give it away. So this is nice, and how everything is just tipping off. Nothing is being chopped off or cut off. If I go to version 2, just keep your eyes right here. Look what happens. Boom, clip, clip, clip. That's no good. I'm going to try IPP2 and just watch what happens. Similar thing. It's pretty tight. And look what it's doing. It's creating this weird artifact, which we should not have with a 16-bit image. I got this question so many times that, bro, I bought a red and thought my life is going to be changed forever, but nothing is happening. My stuff looks like crap. These are the things that we got to understand, okay? This is important. As a colorist, I don't care. As a filmmaker, even if you're, you make promos for someone and you rent a red and then you shoot some stuff for them, you really need to do something in color to present yourself like you can scale your business twice or 3 times or 4 times. You could be charging so much more if your final product looks like a commercial or a movie, and color is that missing piece. So I cannot put more stress and emphasis on how important that is. So let's go back to original and look what happens. Everything is going to open up, and just keep your eyes right here this time. I'm going to go to original. Look how it opens up. Nice. And this is how it's supposed to be. So that's the sauce right here, okay? So this is my primaries. I'm going to move on and create a look with my LUT. And drop in the LUT, and we're good. It's set. And let's see how the shadows look. So there's a little bit more detail in the shadows here. It's kind of dark in here, but for now, I'm going to leave it as is. Actually, you know what? Let's just bring it up. Let's start fixing these things as we see them here, so we can keep moving along. And let's create another version. I'm gonna leave that there. I'm gonna remove that and throw our color transform. Let's go in and dial in our settings. So we've got to go and pick wide gamut. We got to pick G310 or 3G10, and we got to pick Rec 709 for these. And then let's go ahead and apply luminance mapping and saturation. And let's bring it up a little bit more even. Man, I gotta be honest. Wow. I mean, I'm really, really liking the primaries on this one. I mean, just the entire image. Let's do this. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna make it full screen, and let's hide this stuff and look at it for a second. So this is our primaries, LUT, and our CST, or color transform. Yeah, I mean, even just look right here. And just overall, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there's so much more information here. Like, just look right here to right here and right here. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. LUT one has the most filmic look. It's really nice and gentle. So this has the most filmic look from the get-go. Once again, guys, this is not about, we're not doing color correction. We're just going from log to Rec 709. So gotta be honest, this has the most film look. This has the cleanest Rec 709 look and the potential to go anywhere. And then this is sitting in between these two, if I'm being honest. Because even look at this. So this one is a little bit more on the blue side, like cyan side. This one is a little bit on the warm side. And then this is literally the mix between cyan and warm. Like, it's genuinely the mix between the two. So film look, perfect Rec 709, a hybrid between the two. So that's what I would say for this shot. Moving along. So let's go in. We're going to go and do clip. And then we're going to change this to original, or color space to wide gamut RGB, and curve to 310. And we're really going to open it up And then let me park it on a hero frame. So I think the hero frame is somewhere around, let's just leave it somewhere around here and let's go. Let's crank that saturation. Somewhere around here is fine. Looking good. So I just use my lift and gain to kind of dial us in. So let's park it there, create a new version. I'm going to go here, drop a LUT. I really like how Red's LUT work. I mean, to be honest, because it just creates such a film look from the get-go. Like, look at the contrast on the briefcase and just how he pops out from the background compared to our primaries. I mean, we can dial it in and we can, like, let's just do it. Let's just, if I crush my midtones and bring up my highlights. So even if I try to get there, I feel like it's just nicer and gentler. I'm going to turn this off so we can get some more real estate so you guys can see better. I like the LUT better already, guys. Let's just create a new version and let's do our CST. And I'm going to do it all over again so you guys can see what's happening. And then for gamma, I'm going to pick 310. I'm going to pick Rec 709 for my color space. All right, let's make it full screen and let's check it out. Let's move this over. So right off the bat, in love with the skin tones here. Great. And even the bricks, like they pop out. So primaries is kind of falling behind. And although I did some gamma and try to like give it some contrast and punch, but still just kind of lacking behind. Like it's just falling behind. It's not there. I like what the LUT does, like how it adds. I wouldn't say it's adding red. I feel like that might be the color of the bricks, and the LUT version is just a bit truer to the actual colors. I gotta be honest, because I feel like these guys have a little bit of pink in their skin compared to what we're seeing here. I think CST is kind of warming it up, to be honest. And plus, like the film look that we're getting from the get-go, like the soft contrast, is kind of cool. So these are really distinct looks. I mean, it's going to come down to the preference, but I feel like this kind of looks like basic. This looks cool, but it's still like a Rec 709 look. And this can put us in like the film look category. Like it's going to give us a good head start if we're going for like the cinematic look. I even like how the jacket is looking gray, really nice gray. It has like a little yellow here. And then it's nice here, but just a little bit of washed out and missing that pizzazz. So this is it for me on this one. So LUT again. Let's move on to the next shot. One of my favorite shots from this music video. I mean, it's just, I love it. It's just so sharp. And this is the epitome of what I mean when I say red is awfully sharp, but in a good way, like digital sharp. We're going to do the same thing. So let's just do it again. I really want you to hammer what I'm doing here into your guys' heads. So original, red, white, gamut, RGB, log, G13. We're ready to go. So I'm starting with gain, and then I'm pulling my gamma, my lift down, and then just kind of doing a back and forth dance. So I'm going to park it right here for now, and then I'm going to give it some saturation. Always go too far and then pull it back. You know, so something like that is pretty cool. I mean, red is just an amazing camera. Like seriously, like when it comes to colors, man, red can take it. It just, such a nice look, such a nice look. I really like this camera. So this is our LUT version. Definitely needs some work. So I'm going to give it some gain to bring it up, and then just bring it down so we're not losing any detail. I'm gonna give it some mids. Let's see how it stacks up. Pretty good. And now let's create another version, and in that one I'm just gonna delete this and drop my color space transform, because it seems like LUT and CST are almost, you know, in a very similar category. So if we apply one adjustment to one, we can really have that translated to the next one. All right, let's look at it. Just adding a little bit more saturation. So, I mean, obviously I can pull the saturation back a little bit. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's just park it here, make it full screen. Boom, boom. Clear winner, clear winner. I mean, I just love it. I just love it. Like what's happening all the way through, like even just the pure black in the tank top that we're seeing here. I just like it better than here. It has a little bit of warmth, and then this has a little bit of wash. It has a little bit of wash, but just remember guys, like with primaries, what I'm seeing is just always the potential for it to go anywhere. That is really cool that we get with the primaries. CST apparently with the red camera is just leaning toward a little bit on the warmer side for me, to be honest. So I feel like it's not a bad thing. It's just very consistent with that. But again, it's bringing in really nice skin tones and color rendering. And then the LUT one is just doing, that's the sauce. I mean, if I'm going to work with red, so let's start making predictions because we just went through all three shots. So here's this is what I say. LUT is a clear winner if we're going to work on red footage. Drop that in, but just make sure in Camera Raw you set these settings appropriately. And if you're working with Helium or Gemini or one of those newer sensors, then change this color science to IPP2 and see what happens. You know, one set rule for the color science, you're just really going to have to play with it. But the best test is going to be to look at the specular highlights and see what it's doing. And if it's kind of making them crummy and clipping them, then that's not the right color space or color science, and you got to switch it up. But other than that, guys, for this one, I will go with the LUT, save myself a lot of time and get a good head start. And it was genuinely a clear winner. It had the X factor. It was giving it that film look from the get-go. And going from log to Rec 709, this had the most wow factor. So that's it for red. Moving on to Canon C200. All right, working on C200 now. I love this camera. I own this camera, so I got a soft spot for it. You see this that's happening on the top and the bottom. It's because when you shoot in RAW on the C200, it's a little bit bigger than UHD. So, and the aspect ratio is a little funny. So it does that thing. So to fix it, it's pretty simple. You go in here under scaling, change it to fill, and then do the same thing. Just grab these, change it to fill, and I hope it applies it to both. It did. All right, so now we're ready to go. Let's go under color, and we're gonna do our same routine. I'm gonna create 2 layers, and then this is basically Canon C-Log 2. So the thing you gotta love about Canon is that straight out the bat, like it's sort of like following the RE footsteps. It's pretty straightforward, and the color science is just so easy to work with. All right, so let's start with what C200 is used for. So mostly people are using it for promo videos, some indie shorts, and documentaries. A lot of people use this camera for documentary because it's got it all. It has all the advanced video features along with one of the best autofocusing system in the market. It has built-in ND filters and multiple XLR inputs. It has all the things that you need as like a workhorse when it comes to run and gun, and it got you covered. So let's talk about the pros. I will say the color science is just beautiful. I mean, getting the right colors has never been easier with any other camera. It's already there. Like anytime you work with Canon and the C-Log world, as soon as you throw the LUT on there, or even if you use primaries, whatever you do, you know that this is how it looked when you shot it, or whoever shot it. So color science is just so easy, one of the easiest cameras to work with, and most rewarding because the results are just phenomenal. And in RAW, it shoots 12-bit, which is a really, really high bit rate for the price point, and which makes it a pretty good candidate when it comes to qualifying and doing a lot of keying. Cons has to be that the lack of compression for the RAW format, because RAW Lite for Canon is so brand new, the file sizes are kind of ridiculous. And that's the reason why a lot of the times I don't even shoot in RAW. It's good to have that, if I'm doing like a product commercial or something like that, then I might use the RAW feature. But most of the time I'm just shooting in 8-bit, because even the 8-bit image is so clean and it's so pristine that most of the time for what I do, that's enough. The workaround, I would say, is you have to take the RAW files and export them into ProRes 444. And I only say that because it's kind of laggy. Like if you don't have a beast of a machine, like it won't hurt my machine. I feel like I can do a playback and it'll play back fine. But I gotta be honest, once you start dropping some nodes on there, it does start to choke every now and then. And if you turn it into ProRes 444 XQ, then you don't have to worry about it. And you won't be losing anything. It's going to be lossless. So that's my take on Canon C200. Let's just jump right in. So we're going to start with this shot, and I've already created three nodes. And in the middle one, let's just get going. So I'm going to start with my gain, bring it down so we don't lose any details. So I'm going to keep it somewhere around here, and then I'm going to start bringing down my lift, and I'm going to leave my lift somewhere around here, and I'm going to lift my gamma up a little bit, and I'm going to leave my lift around here somewhere. So let's give it some saturation. This is not bad. So I feel like it's leaning a little bit toward bluish side. So let's pull it out. So I'm going to use my temperature and tint to take care of that. So let's go in here, and you're going to see what's happening. I'm going to go right in here, and I'm going to just go toward warm until it looks a little bit better. And then I'm going to take out some of the magenta in there too. So I'm going to add some green. And I think that's not too bad. I'm going to bring back my lift a little bit. And let's see. Now I got to be honest, like just look at this, okay? So this is C200 shooting in RAW at 800 ISO, which is its native ISO. And just look at the gunk like in his hair and on his shirt. And that's kind of sad, because the thing is that it won't bother you if you are just working with this camera. It's going to be fine until you put it next to RE or Red, and this is where we're coming from. So now we're looking at this footage, and we can tell the difference and, tell apart the big boys from the freaking kids on the block. And this camera, RE and Red Dragon, kind of putting this camera in its place, and that's kind of sad because this is my go-to camera. So with all the gunk that we're seeing, it's easy to remove it. Let's just take care of it right now. So this is my go-to secret sauce when it comes to noise reduction. Get used to it, use it, and get it burned into your memory, because this is it most of the time. And then sometimes we're going to have to switch it up. A lot of the times with digital cameras, the noise is sitting in the chroma. So that's why I break the link on that chain, and then I go in and just remove noise in the chroma channel. So now if I do on and off, let's make it big so you can see it. And now if I do on and off, just look at the glove. Look at the shirt. Look at the hair. Okay, so that is a huge, huge difference. And that was achieved very easily. And the best thing about it is that it's not even going to choke the system. Like, I'm going to play it back and look how it goes. The reason why it's choppy is because it was shot in 60 frames and it's playing back in a 24p timeline. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to park it here. And I'm going to use this as my hero shot. And what we should do is just leave that there. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a new version. And I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to leave my noise reduction on because I think we're going to be using that. And then I'm going to go here and apply my LUT. And yep, that's the right LUT. C log 2 LUT. And I think it's kind of crushing the blacks a little, to be honest. So I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. I'm going to pop the blacks out a little bit, and then I'm going to bring the highlights down. And obviously it's really cool, so I'm going to add some warmth somewhere around here. So guys, look at this. This is the thing. Now we can see the power of LUT versus primaries, because with the other cameras, RE and Red, it wasn't so stark, but look at the difference here. So let's just cool this off a little bit. And actually, let's even bring the gamma down to give it some contrast. So then the difference is comparable. And let me go forward and let's just add more green here and more warmth. And let's add more saturation in our primaries. So this is kind of crazy. This is really, really crazy. Wow. I mean, wow. LUT is like a billion times better what I'm looking at right now. Okay. So let's park it right here. I'm going to create a new version. I'm going to leave both of these on because LUT to CST are very similar. So I'm just going to throw on CST and start doing my thing here. And what we want to do is Canon Cinema Gamut. And then we want to select Canon Log 2. That's something they added in Resolve 16. Resolve 15 did not have Log 2. It only had Log 3. So I'm so glad that they did. And let's apply Rec 709 here. And let's apply luminance mapping and saturation mapping. And that's pretty good. I think we can bring down our lift, to be honest. So I just reset my lift. That's all I did. So I mean, look at my lift. It's 000. And so the funny thing is that one, I feel like I can give it a little bit more. I can raise my lift a little. So I just lifted my, or I just raised my gain a little bit for the CST. And then this is our LUT. And then this is our, wow, this is our primaries. Let's make the primaries warmer a little bit. All right, so now we're getting a little bit more in the ballpark. All right, so I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. I'm gonna take my lift and pull it down a little, and then grab my gain and lift it a little. And let's kind of play it through too and see what happens. So So in my CST, I'm just raising it to see how far I can take it. And then I'm gonna bring my meds up and bring my lift down. So very, very interesting results, to be honest. So let's do this. Let's do this and go full screen and get rid of this, and let's analyze this because there's something really interesting that's happening. So as always with the CST, we got a little warm action going on. So let's pull that warmth out, right? So I'm gonna do that. It's just so interesting. Even after pulling that warmth out, it still has its own characteristic. So it's very interesting. Let's analyze it. Let me find a better frame. All right, so if we park it here and just look at it for a second, hold on. So if I look at this, obviously this one got a bit too warm, I guess. So I'm gonna go select that and bring the warmth down a little bit just to make it Rec 709. I'm gonna go to this one and add a little bit of warmth and pull out some of that magenta by adding green. And by the way, I'm switching to these clips by double tapping on it, double click on it, and I'm gonna go in here and add a little bit more warmth and a little bit more green. So now if I look at it, I'm just gonna go off of what looks cool to me and what I'm looking at. Here's the thing. This is probably the most natural. So that's the Rec 709 for me. This is a little bit a hybrid between film and 709. So I'm going with this one. I personally am going with this one because it just has like a cool little factor happening. Like it's kind of restricted, but has all the detail in the highlights and shadows and really cool because if you look at the specular highlights right here and right here, these just feel so much in control, like a film curve, you know, that's applied to this. So I prefer CST is a win for me, then the LUT, and primaries is garbage for me on C200, and that's been the case, guys. Anytime I use primaries on Canon C200, it takes a lot to like get all the colors and everything in place. I mean, it will get there, but it's just a lot easier to start with the LUT and as a clear winner if you're working on an event or documentary and you want to give it a natural look. LUT is going to get you there 85% of the way with one click, and then it's just going to be, you know, balancing and doing things like that moving along. But I'm going to go with CST because I feel like it just has like the little X factor happening here. So this is a well-lit shot example. So let's work on that. We're going to do 3 right here, and I'm just going to start flying here. So let's crank that up until we see something blown out, bring it back. And then let's hit the shadows by bringing the lift down. And let's park it somewhere around here, and let's give it some saturation. I'm pretty much cranking it all the way. I mean, this is just cranked all the way. That's fine. And let's do the same action about the noise reduction. So let's crank that around 8-ish. Remove that, bring that up to 6.8-ish. And that removes a lot of the noise. Let's look at that. Like right here, boom, before, right here, after. Before, after. That's what I'm talking about. Without taking out any of the important detail. So that's the sauce. Now that we got that going on, create a version, remove this. Let's go to that, drop our LUT, Wow, man. Like, these are the right colors. Like, we even got a color checker here. But I was there. I mean, I shot this. I'm looking at this bottle, and that's the right color. The thing that's happening is that it's kind of crushing the dark areas a bit too much. So I'm just going to pull this up a little bit and leave it somewhere around here. I personally don't like my blacks hitting the bottom. It's too much. I'm going to keep it somewhere around there. I really like what it's doing with the highlights. I mean, look at it. It's just creating, because that vignette was created with the lights and it's pulling that out. Whereas here, it's kind of, I have to do some jiggery pokery to get there, but here I'm just there. So I like that. The light, the way I lit this was all focused lighting, and it was sort of like vignettes created through lighting. So this is more accurate representation of what it looked like than this. I can tell you that. So I'm gonna create a new version. I'm gonna keep this as is, and then go to and apply our CST. And now let's go through here, Cinema Gamut, Canon Log 2. Luminance mapping, saturation. All right, let's see where we stand. Wow, so there's a big difference. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna go in here and I'm gonna reset that. Okay, so that's kind of putting us where we should be. Okay. So now what I want to do is I kind of want to like raise my gain. And then what I want to do is pull my gamma down. I want to do the same thing here. I want to pull my gamma down and raise my gain. I mean, just look at the characteristics of all these shots with just different methods of going about grading them. This is valuable, guys. This is so freaking important to understand and see it firsthand to know what is happening. Like all of a sudden I'm looking at the LUT and I'm like, okay, this is a bit too magenta and bluish. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to add some green. And I'm going to add some warmth. And I think that's much better. And now I'm going to go in here and this is way too warm as always. So CST has, like, you know, with RE, with red, and now with C200 it's doing the same thing. So it's leaning a bit on the warm side. So I'm just going to go and use my temperature to like move it back. I'm also keeping an eye on my sugar because that's basically my white point and I don't want it to look anything else than white. So that's looking pretty good. And this one looks really natural now. So primaries was looking good. LUT looks really good. And CST looks really good. So let's just focus on it a little bit more and see what is really happening. Once again, the story is the same with CST. Like if you look at the white here to white here to white here, this white is not as highlighter-esque as it is in these, and even the sugar. And that sort of thing makes it feel like a higher end camera. This is what you get with RE and red. You get a really nice roll-offs on the highlights, and you're kind of getting that from this. So I will kind of go with CST for the pizzazz. I'll go with the LUT for Rec 709. And then primaries is not so bad, but for Canon C200, it's not worth it. So I would go with CST. I mean, even just look at right here and how CST has that controlled. It's so nice. And even like the colors right here in the LUT, they're kind of washed out and everything is just so much more controlled. Just look at the color right here on the wood from here to here. Yep. So for me, for Canon so far, CST is winning. You know, so for red, it was LUT. For RE, it was CST, and primaries were pretty good, but CST was good because it got you going right away, and LUT won 1 round in RE. But here, it's been CST for 2 rounds. Let's move on to the 3rd round. So this is an amazing shot. Footage provided by Filippo Signotti, a friend of mine, and I'm gonna park it somewhere around here, and let's go. We're gonna come in here and raise that around here somewhere, bring it down. Give it some saturation, and let's try to cool it down a little bit. That's cool, and that's fine. So that is, let's just call it, that's one version. I'm going to grab my gamma and bring it down just to create some contrast. Bring my highlights up. Keep it there. Once again, guys, we can do a lot with the color of this, but this is not what we're looking for. We're just looking for log to Rec 709 with different methods. And we're going to go in here and do the same noise reduction technique. Pull this up to around 8-ish. And then pull this up to around 7-ish. So this is fine. Yep, cleaning it up a lot. And now what I want to do is save this version, delete this, go in here, drop a LUT, and see what's happening. And then let's even it out. Like we see that it's just peaking everything. So I'm gonna bring this up a little bit. And then I'm gonna bring it down. I'm gonna bring my mids up. So now if we look at LUT versus, you see what I'm saying? It just, I mean, even if we crank the color all the way, this just looks so much better, like LUT, and there's no comparison between LUT and primaries. But let's go ahead and save it, and I'm gonna get rid of this, and we're gonna drop in CST, and let's keep going. So Canon C-Log 2, luminance mapping on, and then same drill. We're gonna go in here, we're gonna get rid of this. Actually, that's not even applied. We're gonna get rid of this. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so I'm gonna take my lift and bring it down. I'm gonna take my gain and bring it up, and then keep dancing around there. Up and down, gamma up, lift down. Interesting. All right, let's make it full screen and analyze this. So very interesting 3 looks. Primaries is whatever for me. LUT is tasteful, unbelievable how it's holding the colors. I'm liking the LUT the most in this particular example. CST is going to be second. I like the skin tones in the LUT, and I like what it's doing with the bokeh in the back, and I like what it's doing, the gentle roll off in the shadows here compared to the CST. It's kind of gunky looking, and just even look at her, just so nice and soft. And Primers is not doing a bad job, but this just looks so like bad amateur. It doesn't look good. This looks like it's shot with an amazing camera. This looks like it has the potential to be somewhere. This sets us up to get going. Ultimate conclusion for Canon C200, unanimous. The winner is the LUT. If you're going to work off of the LUTs, you're going to be 85% there, then build on that, create looks. All your colors are going to be in the right place. Like, look at this. All your colors and everything, your contrast is going to be in the right place, and then you build off of that. That is a huge, huge thing, guys. So something to just remember. I would go with Canon's LUTs and then go from there. So that's it for Canon. Now we're moving on to GH5. Panasonic GH5. Used for short films, music videos, documentaries, event videos, and vlogs. This is the best camera on a budget that you can buy with the most advanced video features. Pros, it shoots a 10-bit image, which is pretty decent when it comes to keying and overall what you can do with the image. The major con has to be the micro four thirds sensor. It doesn't have that shallow depth of field that usually give cameras the high-end look. And the dynamic range is not the most impressive feature of this camera. So if you look at the footage, same thing is happening. It shoots a little bit bigger than UHD. So you get the bottom and the top looking like that. So we're going to go in and we're going to fill it and see if it's fixed for all of them. And it is. Let's just jump right in. Okay. So this is my first shot. Best thing about Panasonic is that when you shoot in vlog, it is just ready to go. No need to go in. There is no raw settings or anything like that. So I'm just going to start going. So I'm going with my lift and gain at the same time. And let's park it somewhere around here. And let's kick up some saturation, not too much, so something like that. That's looking pretty good. I mean, that's the thing about Panasonic. I mean, look at that image. Like, I have so much information in the highlights. Like right here, I can see everything. Shadows are looking so clean, and just look at these colors. That's the beauty of having a 10-bit image. It's beautiful. So that's it. I'm gonna lock it for now. Let's get rid of it. Go here. Go to Panasonic, drop in our LUT, and let's look at it's a pretty gentle LUT. So then what I want to do is I want to come in here and bring down my shadow or my lift. I'm going to bring my lift down, keep my gain up. Give it a little bit more saturation. Wow, I mean, they look very different. But if I'm honest with you, that yellow is looking close to this yellow. So, I mean, this is looking pretty different. All right, let's play along and see what happens. So I'm going to create a new version, get rid of this. I'm going to go in Open Effects, Color Space Transform, and we're going to do Panasonic V-Gamut, and we're going to do Panasonic V-Log, and then we're going to do our Rec 709. Luminance, saturation. I'm using my lift gamma gain to dial everything in.
All right, let's analyze this. I'm gonna get rid of this, make it full screen. So we got our primaries, our LUT, and CST. All right, gotta be honest. I mean, primaries, again, when I look at this looks close to me, but both of the Vlog LUTs kind of gave it that yellow, but this again has to be the hybrid between the two. I think this is pushing it a bit too much. And then CST is just bringing out so many colors. Because look at this and look at this. And even the reflection and how much detail it's holding, and it's even pulling out more of the sky. I'm sold. I'm sold. CST. CST for me on this one. It's just too good. Like, look at that. Like, just in here, look at that. Like, under here, how much detail it's pulling. Even just look at this, how much detail it's pulling. All right, CST for me on this one. That's a clear winner. Moving on. What a shot. What a shot. All right, I'm gonna do this, go up, bring it down before the highlights blow out, bring this down, bring this up, my gamma up a little bit, bring the gain down a little bit, lift down, gamma up, lift down, gamma up. So I'm gonna add saturation, and let's find a hero pose. So this might be it. Mark the saturation here somewhere. So let's just call this my primary. Let's get rid of that, come here, and now go here and apply the LUT. That's the thing with LUT. I mean, just look at the scopes right here. Sometimes certain LUTs just push it a bit too much. I mean, look at how nice and round this is, our primaries, and then you bring in the LUT and it just goes like, it's too much, man. But it's okay. Let's try to play with it. So let's bring this down and pull out some detail in the mids, and then bring down the highlights a little bit, and then bring up the mids. Give it more color. Gotta be honest, I mean, the LUT one has the film look. It definitely has a nice, gentle contrast that I like. Not to mention that the detail in the sky is kind of prominent. So it is nice. Let's lock it in. Let's get rid of this guy and do our CST. All right, luminance mapping, saturation mapping, we're done here. And let's make some changes. So I'm going to bring my gain up. I mean, all right, let's make it full screen. CST, CST. I mean, there's just more control, more granular control, and how fast you can get to what you want to get to. So in this one, this lesson had no surprise. I mean, it's just CST. I mean, if I go through here and just let you pick, I mean, come on. You don't even have to know which version I'm going through. Just even this color separation, the detail, just everything. CST for me. All right, I'm actually really excited to work on this because I don't know what to expect. So let's try it out. Let's start with my lift. I'm gonna bring down my lift, keep it somewhere around here, raise my gain. Don't want it too much because I would rather keep saturation in my specular highlights than blowing them out. Something like that, and then just let's give it something. Like that's cool. And then I want to go right here and bring up my noise reduction, and we're going to keep it somewhere around here and see if that's good enough. If not, we'll pump in more. I think that's enough. That's doing quite a bit. So let me punch in and show you what's happening. This is before, so look at all that. This is after. Guys, GH5 shoots a really clean image, I gotta be honest. I mean, even with the noise is not as bad as Sony's noise. It's, yeah. And then once you clean it up, it's so clean. So this is kind of nice. I wonder if I can push saturation a little bit more. I can. So I'll just keep it somewhere around here. So that's one. Now let's get rid of this, go here. I'll leave the noise reduction on. And let's go back to Panasonic, drop that on, and that's pretty good. And I'll give it some more saturation, something like that, and I will try to bring it up a little bit, trying to give it like a nice film look. So this is with primaries, and then this is with the LUT. I'm telling you guys, the magic with the LUT is just unreal. Like, look at this. Like, and these are all camera LUTs. I mean, this is as good as it gets because no one knows, you know, their cameras as well as they do. So they create the proper LUTs. I mean, look at that. Just so saturated and all the colors look so good. I mean, that's just cinema right there. I'm gonna lock that in and I'm gonna leave that on, and then I'm gonna go ahead and drop in my space transform and let's try it. So Vlog, and then we're looking for Rec 709, and we're looking for Rec 709 again. Boom, boom. Let's go back. Let's pull it out even more. Somewhere around here. All right, I think I have a clear winner here. So let's look it up. Let's pull it up. We'll do that. But I think I already know. I think you even know who the winner is here. So we got our primaries. Nah, it's gone. We got our LUT and we got our space transform. It's the LUT all the way. Like, it just, look at the shadows. I mean, they're so clean. Specular highlights are so clean. This is just, this has like film written all over it. That makes me want to respect Vlog so much. I mean, this is cool because everything is there. And after just bringing our saturation down, if we pull the saturation out of our shadows, I feel like we can get there really fast. So this is almost there, but I even like the contrast here, how it's just so nice at the bottom. And yeah, so the LUT is a winner in the darkness. But here's the thing, extracurricular. I'm just gonna do something here. So in my space transform, just want to make sure that that's what's selected. Space transform. I want to go in here and I want to show you something. So let's go under sat versus sat, and we're just going to take, actually, you know what? Let's try this first, luminance versus sat. And we're going to take this and we're going to do something like that. And that's kind of doing that, you know, it's kind of taking that color off. But now I want to try this, sat versus sat. So I didn't mean to do that. So let's go back here, delete version 4. And now what I want to do is go
back and forth between our LUT and space transform. So if I go back before I added a couple of things, so this is before, and it had that little magenta thing going on, which doesn't really bother me that much, but then this gives it the pure black and white, just like what's happening here. And then lifting, giving it this film look is easy. I'm going to show you how. You just raise your lift, you bring your gamma down or gain down, and then you just add contrast. And watch this. Like, watch where she is sitting in the right place, but in the space transform, there's just more juice, which is even nicer. So I was just able to create that contrast that fast. Like, look at that, at the film contrast that people go crazy over. We were able to create that literally in 2 seconds. So now, after doing a couple of things, I feel like the clear winner is space transform, because now we just have so much more control over it. And just look at, it's just so much more color and so much more juice in there. I mean, I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am, because this is freaking great. Beautiful footage, by the way, by Filippo. Love you, man. Thanks for providing me with this footage. Anyways, guys, so this is the end of Panasonic GH5. Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, a new kid on the block. This thing is a freaking golden child. People are using it for short films, music videos, I mean anything and everything. The price point on this compared to its quality is just nonsensical. If you can spare $1,300-$1,400, get yourself this camera. Unreal. Pros, the dynamic range is kind of ludicrous, again, for the price point. It shoots 12-bit image, which is great for qualifying and keying. And the codec choices are unbelievable in camera. You can shoot it ProRes 444, 422, DNx HD, and when that stuff comes in, it plays back like butter in post. The only con I can think of is, again, it's a micro four thirds, so the shallow depth of field is kind of a bummer. It restricts it from getting that 35mm sensor look. Workaround would be to just let it be. Seriously, I mean, it's okay. Not everything has to be or have shallow depth of field. All right, I picked these 3 shots because they're just extreme. One is overexposed, look where it's sitting right here. The other one is right in the middle, which is perfect. And then we got a person, so we can look at so we can see how it renders skin tones. So let's start with this. I'm gonna park it on my hero frame and let's get going. This is where we're gonna do our magic. And in a case like that, I'm gonna show you what's the best option. Use your offset right here. So I'm just gonna take that, I'm gonna bring it down, and look what it's doing. So I'm gonna bring my offset down to somewhere in the middle, and that's a good starting point. And now I'm gonna use my gain and lift to see where I want it. So I'm gonna bring my gain down. I'm gonna keep bringing my lift down somewhere around here. And then I'm gonna give it some saturation. You know, so not bad. Just look at it. It's insane, the information that it retains. Like, this camera is unreal. This camera is crazy. So let's just save it. And this is gonna be with the LUT. So now we're gonna go look for a Blackmagic LUT. Guys, there's way too many Blackmagic LUTs. So you're welcome that I just picked you the right one that you need, because if I click here, look at this. Look at this. They're crazy with that. They're crazy with that. So I picked the right one for you for this camera. Click on it. It might not look like it's doing much, but wait till we do the same offset action. We're going to grab it and we're going to start pulling it down until it looks good. And then once it's somewhere around here, we're going to come out of our offset and we're going to start doing the same thing we did for the primaries. So this is my primaries. This is the one with the LUT.
I'm going to take my lift and bring it down a little bit. All right, I mean, come on. Look at the, let's even if we give more saturation to our primary one. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but actually, I don't know. Hold on. Very interesting two looks. So that's pretty cool. Let's save this, get rid of that, put our CST in. And then this is kind of tricky too, because look how many versions they have. So let's stick with Pocket 4K and let's see what happens, okay? Rec 709. Pretty good. I would give it a little bit more saturation. I'm just raising my lift, bringing my gamma down, raising my lift, and bringing my gain up for my CST. And guys, let's look at it. Let's see if we got a clear winner or if this is going to be a pretty difficult one. Primaries, LUT, CST. Let me go to the LUT one and bring the saturation down a little bit. The LUT is doing something that just not seeming right, meaning this should be green. It shouldn't be this color. It should be this color. And here we get somewhat of this color. I mean, these two are pretty similar. They are very, very similar. Okay, so the only difference that I see between these two is that this is a bit heavy on contrast. Like, look at this area, and around here, and then you look at right here, and it's kind of opened up. It's not as tight. Even this area compared to this area. So it definitely retains more information. And I also like the color rendering here. Just a bit more gentle. And this is just almost like a borderline look. It's stylized. I would go with, I mean, it's a stylized look. It is a cool look. It's almost like a little bit of a retro look, honestly. Like the cyan in the sky and the autumn trees are kind of giving me that vibe. I'll go with CST. I mean, let's not forget how fast, LUT and CST, these two solutions are if you're going to go with these. Because here's the funny part. When you're looking at it side by side or like the 4-up, it's hard to tell the difference between 1 and 3, but then you go back and forth here between 1 and 3, and it's like night and day. Maybe we should start looking at these like that as well. So this is 1, this is 2. There's a huge difference between 1 and 2. But if I go from 1 to 3, look how big of a difference that is. Oh yeah, I mean, no, 3 is so much better. It's just so opened up. So yeah, that's it. CST, going with that. Moving on to the next shot. I'm gonna park it on something like that. I wanna see the highlight, I wanna see the light, I wanna see the darkest thing in there. And then I wanna keep an eye on that spot over there too. Let's get going. All right, so that's where I would park my primaries for this one. Done. Let's get rid of it. Go here, drop a LUT. So the LUT can use some contrast, which we can create by bringing my lift down and raising my gain, and then using highlights to bring it down. So I'm going to use gain and then bring my highlights to bring that down. Then I'm going to bring my lift down. Okay. Huh. Almost pretty similar. Okay. Let's save this. Get rid of that. And then let's go with pocket. And then luminance mapping. All right, so I'm gonna bring my gain down a little bit, and then I'm gonna bring my lift up a little bit. I also would want to give it a bit more saturation. I'm working on my CST. It's just gonna be a similar answer that like the last one, because if you look at it, this looks like Rec 709, that looks like Rec 709 with a little bit of extra magenta thing going on. So let me just pop in here and pull that out. So I'm gonna go in offset and add green tint a little bit to just pull it back. But just looking at it, I think there's something cool about the LUT version. I do like it. Even in the previous example, previous shot, I did like it. I thought that it has a pretty distinct look. It is pretty cool. But with Blackmagic, I mean, everything is coming pretty close until we see it here. And then it should be a bit different. So let's review it. So this is our primaries. This is our LUT. And then that's our CST. So if you look at the LUT and just look at the shadows and what's happening here, this little cyan action that's going on, that's added by the LUT. So that's very interesting to me, because if you go to primaries, that's not happening. And then if you go from primaries to CST, I'm losing some highlights here. I'm losing some highlights here, right here. But what if I try to bring that back? Hold on. So if I get rid of this and I bring this guy back, maybe raise it a little bit. So here's the thing. I mean, primaries is good, but nothing to write home about. It's just a Rec 709. The thing that I always loved about the CST is just the color rendition, right? So, I mean, look at this green in the trees. the pop right here, I mean, they are really close. I'm not gonna lie. 1 and 3 are really, really close. I will go with 3 just because 1 takes some work to, you know, get in that space, whereas 3 just starts there, you know. Moving on to the third shot, I'm interested to see what happens here. So let's start with lifting the gain, bringing it back, bringing the lift down, raising my mids so we can like really see him, bringing the lift down, bringing the gamma down a little bit and leaving it here, and let's just give it some saturation, bring it back. Let's say somewhere around here. That's not bad. Actually, that looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. This, how the dude is looking, let's give him some more saturation. I mean, that's not bad at all. That's actually really cool. That's good. Okay, so we got 1. This is looking good. Let's just create, drop a LUT in, and that is looking pretty decent. Let's just bring it down a little bit. And let's go ahead and just save it. Do our thing. Luminance mapping, saturation, and let's look at it. I mean, after a little bit of work, kind of became a no-brainer real fast. So let's hide this and spend a minute analyzing this. So this is my primaries, this is my LUT, and then this is my CST. And I really like my CST. And I also think that this might be the closest, because look at this color and look at that color. One thing that's kind of funny that's happening is just look at the sticky notes and this top right here and how that color is so different in all of these. Look at the sticky note here. Look at the sticky note here. Completely different things. And look at the sticky note here. Like, it went from yellow to green to green. And these things are important because if you're going to be working on a commercial where the product is key, well, if the sticky notes are selling yellow sticky notes, you don't want to throw that CST on it and make it look like that. But the $1,000,000 question is that what do these actually look like? Because I feel like this looks accurate here than from here to here or here to here. That's just my thought. His eyes are too hollow. I'm not into primaries. That's off the table. LUT is kind of cool, but it's harsh. Look at the hair. Look at the hair here. Look at the shirt here. Look at the shirt here. So much more detail. Sold on CST. Moving on. Even the colors, like I said, if you go back and look at this to that, it looks like a better match. So for Blackmagic cinema camera, CST. I mean, the colors were just like really poppy and it just added so much life into it. And if you start with CST, it's a fast process, better than primaries, and definitely better than Blackmagic's LUT, because it's just giving it a weird retro like look. It's not making it look Rec 709. It's creating sort of like a grade through the base LUT. So that's my 2 cents with Blackmagic. Moving on to Sony A6500. Sony A6500. Used for events and weddings, this camera is the king of events. Pros, it's really good in low light, and having a log feature on a camera for under $1,500 is huge. Cons have to be that, yes, it's log, but it's shooting 8-bit image, so that can introduce a lot of banding and other sort of artifacts. And it's really noisy in the shadows, so you're gonna see that. Workaround, I would say, would be using a D-band effect. It's one of the Resolve OFX, and I think it comes with the studio version. I will also say using noise reduction heavily, and adding film grain can also help with the banding. So let's just jump right into it. Same thing, I set it up with a overexposed image, a well-lit image, and then we have underexposed with lots of noise, and a really nice clip to see how much dynamic range we can play around with. So let's start with our first shot, and I'm gonna choose this as my hero frame. Let's just jump right in. So I'm gonna create 3 nodes, and I'm gonna bring my lift down as I move my gain up, and then bring it down, bring my lift down, bring my mid up, just because we're dealing with an African-American gentleman. So we're gonna bring our gamma up just to give him some juice, and then bring lift down. And then I'm gonna bring my highlights up around here, bring my mids up, my gamma up, bring my lifts down, somewhere around here. Now let's add saturation, just give it juice. Okay, let's pull it back from the saturation a little bit. With this module, I want to stick with just temperature and tint, and I don't want to introduce any other form of color correction. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some warmth into my image and pull it back a little bit, and then add some green to get rid of that magenta blue cast on him. And somewhere around here, give it some more warmth. And now let's just crank our saturation more. And all right, so I'm gonna park it somewhere around here. Somewhere around here is fine. And, you know, we're seeing a lot of gunk in the highlights. And again, that's the 8-bit image, you know, shooting in log. And I'm actually gonna do some quick fixes here, okay, on this. We're gonna make some exceptions for our Sony footage because it's 8-bit and there's just way too much gunk going on. So let's go to hue versus saturation, and this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull my blue down, and as I pull my blue down, it just takes all the color off, you know, the cast that he was getting, the weird blue cast that he was getting, that's just completely gone. And then I'm gonna take my yellow. You know, I can't really take the yellow out because that's the only color in the entire image. I'm actually gonna pop it. I'm gonna saturate my yellow. And then what I'm gonna do is, it's okay that it's looking gunky, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna go to luminance versus sat, and now luminance versus sat meaning darkest to brightest, and we're gonna grab the brightest area. We're gonna drop this in so this can lock it, and then we're gonna grab our brightest area and we're gonna bring it down. And look what it does. It took care of that gunk. That gunk is gone. The blue cast is gone, and the image is looking a lot cleaner. So this is the name of the game. You're going to experience that a lot with cheaper cameras. It's going to get more difficult. There's going to be a lot more work that needs to be done as a colorist, and it's always subtle little changes. It's never anything heavy-handed. So just keep that in mind. Like, look what we did with 2 nodes and how far we've come just by using 2 nodes. And it's clean. It's really pristine. I mean, look at the entire image where it's sitting. Nothing is in the danger zone. We are good. Where this image is living. And again, the whole purpose of this module is getting it in Rec 709 from log. And I think we've done that. I'm gonna save this. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna move this over. I'm gonna put my LUT here and reset this. Let's go to LUTs, grab my Sony LUT. There are multiple LUTs, so I'm gonna go with type A. And then I'm going to use my highlights and shadows because this image is just so contrasty because he's dark and then there's this super white background. So we might be able to have better luck using highlights and shadows in this particular situation. And then I'm going to go ahead and warm up my image a little bit. Warming it up. This is looking pretty decent. I'm going to go ahead and just reduce my tint to add some green. And I'm just going to go back and forth between temperature and tint. So I'm going to use my highlights and shadows to kind of bring him out and bring the environment down. And I think it's helping. And I don't want to overdo it. I'm just going to park it where it is right now. And we're going to go in here. And you know what? I want to go back to luminance versus saturation. And I want to bring this down even more. All right. So I see it's being affected. So this is our primaries. This is our LUT. Let's bring this up a little bit too, so it's closer to that. And then let me add a little bit of warmth. So I'm just gonna leave it here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this version and then redo it. And then I'm going to go in here and let's throw the color transform. And what I'm noticing is that S-Gamut 3 is better than S-Gamut 3 Cine. Gives me more color. And then I'm going to do S-Log 3. This is going to be Rec 709. This is going to be Rec 709. Luminance mapping. Saturation, boom. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to go in here and bring the saturation back to normal. See, that's the thing about CST that I always loved. Like, it just brings back so much color. And it lifts the darkest areas in the most like proper way. So what I'm gonna do is, this is looking good. Honestly, I'm gonna give it just a little bit of saturation and that's it. Let's check it out. So I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna move that over. All right, so let's, for the sake of argument, let's bring it in the same ballpark as these. So I'm gonna add some warmth. And then I'm going to add some. Okay, so something very interesting is happening here. This primaries, we always know, you know, there's a lot of room. You can take it many different places. And my LUT is looking pretty natural, but it's a little bit desaturated. And I don't like all this magenta and weird stuff that's happening here. Like, the artifacts are just too pronounced. I like what's happening here. Let me pull the saturation down. All right, so let's pull the saturation out completely. So I like what's happening here. But I don't know. I might actually just like the primaries the best, because if I make it a little bit cooler, I actually don't know. I mean, he is looking much better here. The bricks are looking better here. I'm just gonna go with CST. just gonna happen. I'm just gonna have to go with it. Yeah, so that's a CST for me. Yep. Like, I mean, just look at it. So this is 1, this is 3. Let's make it full screen so you guys can look. So this is 1, this is 3. I mean, just look at it, like everything. Bricks. Him. So much better. Yeah. I'm gonna go with CST on this one. Moving on. I'm gonna use this as my hero frame, and let's get going. So I'm gonna bring the lift down, raise my gain, park it somewhere around here. I'm gonna add saturation, and I'm just focusing on the lips because I know the color is off. The white balance is not accurate, so it's okay. I'm gonna add some warmth, properly white balance the image. So this right here is what I'm using to white balance my image, okay? Because that's where she is. And look, I mean, I can give her some warmth. Like usually the skin has a little bit of red, you know, so I can give her that and then give it more saturation. But more importantly, it needs more contrast. So I'm going to lift that up. And, you know, for a fair skin tone, you want to keep it around where it is, somewhere around here. And let's just go and make sure that, you know, this is good. So that, and we're just using our temp and tint. We're not using anything else. If we were using everything else, it would have been a lot easier. But in this module, this is not color correction, so I want to keep it consistent and simple throughout the lessons. So this is working. Now, I don't like the noise. As mentioned before, like this camera has so much noise in the shadows, so I'm just gonna keep this around 8.4-ish and then keep this around 7-ish. And that takes care of it, makes it very, very clean. So let's save this. Let's get rid of this. Let's go here, drop a LUT. And that is weird. Let's just add some warmth and add some green, warmth, green, maybe some saturation. I'm going to keep it here. I'm just going to pull out the saturations from it. And then I'm going to go here, get rid of this, and then do our transform. Luminance mapping, saturation, let's see. I mean, come on. This is what I've been talking about. Like, let's just... Like, CST is just too good. It's just too good. I mean, look at that. So, everybody complains about having crazy issues with Sony log footage. And guys, this is the answer. You're welcome. This is the answer. So look at what's happening with the primaries. Even if I go in, let's just go in and try to fix this primary. So I'll take my midtones and bring it down. I'll take my lift and raise it a little. And then I'll take my gain and raise it. Fine. Okay, so now the contrast is pretty close to the LUT one. So let's look at it. Let's review it. You see the top and how blue it is? That blue wasn't there. That doesn't exist. It's even adding some weird stuff in the hair. And there's less of that in the LUT version, but it's still there. Look at the tank top. And then you look at it here and it's gone. Now, all I need to do in this clip is add a little bit more like pink in her skin. Look at this. Like, this is what you're looking for. skins are terrible with Sony if you're using anything else but color space transform. CST can really, really put you in the ballpark. Just look at this. This is pretty good too. So just look at how yellow it is right here. And that's with primaries. And a lot of people have issues, using primaries because not only your skin is yellow, there's like some weird blue magenta gunk going on in the hair. And then it's also trickling on the tank top. And then the tank top here is the wrong color too, but the skin is looking better. But then when you move to CST, the tank top is fixed. The skin is fixed. The lipstick is perfect how it was. The gunk in the hair is gone. Look at, there's no blue in the hair. And the skin looks perfect. Look at the hands. And look at the hands. Like there's a weird magenta craziness going on. There's something going on over here. But like look at the arms here and everything. CST. Literally no competition. Sony's color science is debunked. That's it. We solved it. If you're using CST and how I showed you, that's it. Game over. You know how to work with Sony now. So let's work on our last shot, and that's a pretty difficult one. I'm gonna start with the regular and park it somewhere around here, lift my mids, and park my lift around here, and keep my mids right here. Let's add saturation. And let's add some warmth. We're just using our tint and temp control, so we're seeing some of this gunk that we can take out, by using our lift gamma gain RGB wheels. But I'm not going to do that. There's going to be a color correction section where I'm going to go through all of that and get in there and deep dive. Here, I just want to focus on what each type of method is doing and what can get us in the ballpark right off the bat. So let's just call this, let me add noise reduction, very important. And on this one, we kind of have to go heavy. So I'm going to do 5 and better. And then I'm going to go to about 14. And then I'm going to come right here and I'm going to go to about 7-ish, 7.4. So let's blow it up and see how much it's helping. So first of all, I'm going to darken it a little bit more. And now let's do on and off. Look at her pants. Yeah, so it's helping in a major way. Although I added the lift on the wrong one. So I'm going to check this off and I'm going to go here and bring this down. Okay. Saving this. That's our primaries. Getting rid of that. Dropping a LUT. Warming it up using my temperature. That's not bad. And then I'm going to leave it there. This is actually not bad. Let's give it some saturation. I'm just looking at her arm. Okay, this is not bad. If we go here and look at all this blue magenta thing going on to like here, it's not bad. So this LUT is actually pretty good. Let's save it. I'm not going to change anything here. I'm just going to reset this color space. Cine 3. S-Log 3. Luminance mapping, saturation. I'm going to turn the saturation off. Yeah, clear winner. I mean, I gotta be honest, like the LUT one was really, really good in this example, but this is just better. So let's talk about this. This is just gunky and weird. Don't ever use primaries with Sony consumer level cameras. It's just so much garbage. It'll be impossible to take it out, shot per shot basis. So most of you, if you guys are doing this, Just by using my LUT, you're going to be doing that. So already there's a huge difference. And then here, you know, we can come in and we can go, okay, this is too warm, and cool it off, and we can cool it off a little bit, right? So it's up to you. I didn't mind where it was, so I'm going to take it back and kind of park it around there. But look at right here, how much more skin it brought out. Even the color of the skin. Look at this color of the skin. I mean, look at this skin. This is your Sony skin. Look at this skin through CST. Are you kidding me? This is freaking insane. More importantly, look at in the LUT version how your highlights are kind of gone. Look how they're preserved. Much gentler roll off. Same thing right here, right here. A lot more information here, and it just looks so much better. Like, look at the floor here, and there's some weird blue action going on, like magenta, blue, and how proper. CSD is just too much when it comes to Sony. And guys, everyone that I know is having issues with Sony cameras, and this right there solves everything. This puts you in that 85% starting off point, and then you just run with it. You start here and then you just go do whatever you want with it. But this is what you would be getting right now if you're doing it on your own. And after me showing you some tips and tricks, this is where you're going to be starting off. That difference right here means what you paid for my class and $10,000 more. I'm not joking, because Sony cameras are just so popular. Everybody's shooting with Sony. And if you can get somebody this result from this, they're going to be blown away. They're going to be coming back to you. You're going to be working with them for eternity. So that's Sony. Let's move on to another very exciting camera, DJI Inspire 1. DJI's Inspire 1, what a phenomenal camera. DJI has come a long way, and they're it. When it comes to aerial photography or video work, that's it. That's the only name that you will ever hear. And pros, Inspire 1 shoots a really clean image. The latitude is beyond decent. The only drawback that I can think of is that sometimes it could be too sharp and there's a lot of chatter. And workaround would be to add noise reduction and also add glow to like really take the edge off those highlights and make them feel film-like. So let's take a look at it and dive right into it. I mean, first of all, look at this footage. My God. So I'm going to create 3 right here, and let's just fly with it. Let's do it. I mean, it's almost there. I'm just going to add some saturation. And that, I mean, I will bring this down a little bit. Let's create a new version. And this time, we're going to drop in our DJI LUT. So let's go in here and go under DJI. I'm going to close this up, and then let's look at which LUT is going to be applicable. In this case, I'm going to try applying this one and see what happens. So let's bring back the detail in the shadows. Let's bring back the highlights. I'm going to bring my mids up and then bring my shadow down. Give it some more saturation. That was our primaries. And then this is our LUT. Looks nice. It does look nice. And I like how it removes this weird blue that you see a lot with these drone footage. So this looks pretty good. The blue might be a bit too intense, but we'll see. So let's just, I'm gonna save this and move on. And let's create our color space transform. And we're going to do DJI D gamut, and we're going to do DJI D log, and then luminance, and then saturation mapping.
I mean, something interesting is happening here. Here's the thing. I want to take this LUT, I want to create one more version, and I want to show you what you can do, especially when it comes to travel footage like this. So I'm going to create another version, and I'm going to get rid of this, okay? And let me show you what I'm going to do instead. And this is what those 15 million hits videos that you see on YouTube, they are doing this a lot. So I'm going to take my highlights and shadows, and I'm just going to start going in the opposite direction and watch what's happening. Tell me that this doesn't look HDR. Okay. Now if we go before and after, there's a big difference. And now if I take you back, let's just pop all of these up. And this time I'm going to do not original, I'm just going to do versions. So all 4 versions that we just created, let's open them up. Okay. So let's look at it. You got your primaries, you got your LUT, we got our CST, and we got our HDR. Now the thing with the HDR is that don't worry about the saturation, because I can go in here and I can do a couple of things. One, I can bring the saturation down a little to take the edge off, like even something like that. Now if you look at it, just look at the juice here. We can even crank it a little bit more and play around with it a little bit more. So this looks too ordinary, that's a no-go, gone. LUT, I will definitely use. This is pretty cool, this looks pretty cool. CST, I will do color transform, but I don't like, you know how the poofy clouds are popping here and they're not so much. It's just not the look for the drone stuff, unless you're trying to match the film look and you're going for that roll off and that kind of thing. But I will go between these two, but personally I'll go with the HDR look, because it's not full on HDR. It's still true, but it just looks like it's crazy. Like I said, you know what you see on TV look. So I will definitely go with that, because like look at the difference, right? So this is 3. This is 4, and just look at the definition and everything. And that just happened because we were using, just look at the clouds, because we were using highlights and shadows. So that's my method, working with drone footage, but definitely LUT would be number 2. Let's move on and let's try it on this shot and see what happens. So I'm gonna go bring my lift down, hold it somewhere around here, bring my gain down to get some information there, raise my mid, bring my lift down, raise my gamma, and park it somewhere around here, give it some saturation, too much. Somewhere around here is nice. All right, that's it, calling it. Now I'm gonna go here, drop a LUT, come back here, and just bring it up a little bit, not too much, somewhere around here, and then let's bring my highlights down. Let's bring my mids up. Let's bring my shadows or my lift down. Let's bring my mids up, lift down. It's always the dance, guys. So that's pretty cool. If we go from primaries to that, it's a pretty big difference. I'm going to open that up, give us a little bit more room. So that's my primaries, that's my LUT. Create another version, get rid of this. And D-log. All right, luminance and saturation. Let's pull this stuff in. Let's bring our mids up, shadows down. All right. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my LUT one, copy it, get rid of this, and then we're going to try the HDR. So that's my HDR, and I can pull the saturation back just a touch. And now let's go look at them. And let's get rid of this, move this over. Okay, so we got our primaries, our LUT, our color space transform, and our HDR. And gotta go with my HDR again. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. I mean, look at this section compared to that section. Look at this section compared to that section. And even this compared to that. And then the best thing is going to be when we come out of here and go through this. So this is one, primaries versus HDR. And then this is space transform versus HDR. And then LUT is going to be option B, but HDR is just too good. Like, let's play it through. I mean, come on. This is before. And again, we're creating this with multiple nodes. We're not going in deep and isolating each thing. And you guys know how I usually do, because we're not doing color correction or color grading. So I'm just showing you the proper settings for the camera. But you guys are latching on to what I'm trying to do, right? Like, camera settings are literally 100% of the name of the game, because once you start off right with the proper color science for each camera, it's game over. That right there is the sauce. Like, all the questions that I get, how do you get that look? How do you make things look as good as they look? How do you do it? It's these things that I've figured out. And once you do this right, that's it. The rest is simple. Then you get creative. So once you nail all these things, then you just have fun. That's it. That's when the fun begins. All right, so I'm going to raise this up a little bit, bring my lift down, bring my mids up a little bit, keep the lift here, give it some saturation. It's not bad. Let's park it. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go here, drop a LUT, come back, and I'm going to raise my mids a little bit, hold it here, raise my mids, bring my lift down, bring my gain down a little bit, bring my mids up, bring my lift down, and I think it's good. It's good. Park it. I'm gonna go here, space transform. Let's drop in D gamut, D log. All right, so let's go in, pull our highlights back in somewhere around here. Let's lift our mids somewhere around here, and then I'm gonna lift my mids a little bit more, bring my lift down, bring my gamma up, lift down, and that's looking pretty good. Now we're gonna go back in here and copy that. I'm gonna get rid of it. Time to create HDR. So let's do it. All right, I think we did it. Let's open this up, make it full screen, go here. All right, so primaries, LUT, color transform, and HDR. Bring the saturation down a little bit. I mean, come on, you know, like here to here. It just doesn't get any better than that. And how easy it is to get there. So yeah, it's going to be every time. It's going to be HDR for these shots because it's not like a baked-in look. We're creating this look, so we can control the intensity however much we want it. I mean, this is kind of cool too. This is our color transform, but you come in here and look at the details in the rocks and everything. Like, look at that. Like, look at that. So that's huge. Then this is our primaries, and then you come back here. Just a whole another thing that's happening here. So guys, this is it. So we just went through every major camera out there, and I showed you the most optimum settings for each one to get the Hollywood result, to get the TV commercial caliber image out of your grades. I hope you enjoyed this module. And I want to take a minute to kind of rank these cameras. And I created different categories, okay? So first of all, we're just going to do a general ranking. And let's start out from the top dog to the bottom B. I will put RE Mini all the way to the top. It's the best image, easiest to use, super chill on the processor, on your workstation. You can have a 2016 MacBook Pro and mid-tier and easily work with RE 4K footage in DaVinci Resolve. Number 2 has to be Red, because the image is just unreal. Red and RE are in their own category, and regardless of how tough Red is to work with in terms of post-production and just the system that you need to run it unless you have the Red Rocket card, it is a phenomenal camera. The dynamic range is insane. The bit depth is crazy. And just the color science, it looks beautiful. So it's number 2. Canon C200 has to be number 3, although I feel like I really love the image from GH5 as well, and it's a very pristine image, and even with grain, I feel like they do a really good job, probably better job than Canon C200. What makes Canon so unbelievably good is that not only it's a workhorse with multiple XLRs, ND filter built in, and the best autofocus system in the market, it also has a phenomenal color science when it comes to color grading, and it makes it a breeze to work with. GH5 is 4th on the list. What an incredible camera. You saw the kind of results we achieved in such a short amount of time. It's probably the shortest lesson out of everything else, and I still had the same amount of shots to grade. It is just such a pleasure to work with this camera, and I cannot talk enough great things about it. Then I will go with DJI Inspire 1. I feel like DJI has been killing the game, and they've come a long way. And this camera is just so impressive. The chatter is to the minimum, and the color rendering is just so good. For a freaking drone camera, it's unbelievable. Highest recommendations. So much fun to work with. Sony a6500 has to be the bottom of the totem pole in this lineup because there was just too many shortcomings, and that's what you have to keep in mind when you're working with cheaper cameras, that your work is not going to be easier, it's going to be much harder. But once you follow the steps that I showed you, it's just going to give you such a unfair advantage over the competition that you don't even know. I only picked a few shots to work on in this module, but if you go through the folders, there's so much more footage in there. I just loaded you up with amazing footage. So just go ham, bring it in, and just try out anything and everything and all the techniques that I showed you and perfect your craft. I hope you guys enjoyed this module. I mean, we covered everything. We started with, like, let's just say the base, Sony cameras, A6500 or A7 III or whatever have you. We started from there, how to work with those cameras. So let's say right now, if you're working on wedding videos, if you're working on corporate videos and kind of climbing your way up, I showed you exactly how to get the most out of that. Then the next category would be GH5 if you're into short films, things like that, or if you're into YouTube videos, stuff like that. We went through GH5 and maximized how to get the best image out of that. Then we moved up to the ultimate workhorse, C200. If you're working on short films or documentaries, that's the camera of choice, and I showed you how to get the best quality out of it. Then moving up, we work with Red, and I showed you how to set it up properly in the RAW module, what to do and what not to do. And then we moved up to our Rolls Royce, which is Alexa Mini, and we discussed everything that you need to know and create the best image possible. I wasn't kidding when I said I'm gonna make you profitable. My goal is to just literally give you the meat, the practical information that you need. All these cameras that we just gone through, this is it. This is it from the top to the bottom. Like, this is the lineup. We just covered the entire gamut. And if you take my cheat sheet and just all the different cameras that we went through and apply it to your workflow, you can just watch these videos 100 times. I would say for each specific camera that you're working on, if you're working with A6500 or even A7R III or something like that, pull out that part of that module and watch it 18 times and then try to replicate that and see what happens. You'll be surprised how many times you're gonna get hit up that, hey, I shot this music video with Red. I don't have the budget for post. Can you color grade it for me for 200 bucks? Can you color grade it for me for free? And guys, trust me, you wanna jump on that, because just like when I started this module and said, getting your hands on some of those high-end cameras, game over. Once you have that on your reel, that's it. You don't even need 10 projects. You need 1 or 2, and you just like cut them up, you chop them up into 30 seconds, present yourself the right way, and you got the job. Here's my suggestion for you guys. Go back, pick out each camera, go through the footage that I provided and start practicing and try to get as close as possible to what I'm trying to do. Now, eventually, I don't want you to just copy what I do and throw your own flair on it, absolutely. But for starters, I challenge you to come as close as possible to my grades and what I'm creating, and start making sense of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the limitations of each camera or the pros of each camera and how they're better in some ways compared to other cameras in the lineup. I want you to go through each one multiple times. I would say watch the video 4, 5, 6 times, and the first 2, 3 times just watch the video, and then the 4th time start practicing with the footage that I gave you and see how close you can get to my grades, and then rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I'm telling you, instead of moving on to the next module in the course, I would say really live with each module. There's a reason why I have 1 week in between each module, the way they're gonna come out, is because I really want you to start living with each module and spend a lot of time, guys. Practice makes perfect, and nothing will happen overnight. It just cannot happen overnight. You just have to burn all these skills into your brain to a point where you can do this stuff in your sleep, and it just will happen. I promise you, because I'm in your corner. I'm not going anywhere. You have access to me. This course is just like a guide to kind of put you on that path, and that's it. And then I'm here to just carry you through it to the next level. That's where we're headed. So just go with it and listen to me when I say these things to you, because I promise you I've been there. And this is me coaching you how to get the most out of this math.